Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Slate demo series. Today, we are going to discuss the tool Batch Acquire, which is something that is really helpful for application processing teams or those who are working with application processing. So to begin, I want to do a quick introduction. My name is Laura Murnen. I'm Director of Slate Trainings here at Carnegie. And before Carnegie, I worked in higher education. I worked in admissions office as a former recruiter. I've also worked in service learning offices and actually came to Carnegie as a Slate communication strategist. So Deliver, if anybody works in Deliver, it's my favorite module within Slate, but we'll ignore that for now and jump right into what we're going to see for Batch Acquire today. So really today's goal is to introduce Batch Acquire to you and show you how it can seamlessly import documents, both physical and digital, into your Slate instance. And again, this tool is something that is really critical and helpful for those who are really doing application processing for your colleges or universities. Today's agenda is pretty straightforward. We're going to be introducing the tool, going into Batch Acquire and seeing the different functionalities of it. We're going to import sample documents, and then finally, we're going to assign those documents to a record or application. So if that sounds good, we're going to jump right in, and we're actually going to use our showcase, our test environment for this. So sharing my screen, you should be able to see our showcase environment now. To navigate to the Batch Acquire tool, it is not one of those tools that has the luxury of being on the top toolbar. I know that we all have favorites that we would hope would be up here, but you're actually going to need to navigate to Database for this. As I hover over it, you'll see that I actually have Batch Acquire as one of my most recent. If this is a tool that you're going to navigate to quite a bit, you're always welcome to pin that tool for your view so that it's easy access for you to come back to. But if this is your first time in the Batch Acquire tool, you can actually just select Database. And we're going to see where this falls in Database. So if I scroll just a little bit, you'll see the Import and Data Processing column here, and you'll see Batch Acquire is listed at the top. You also see some other very helpful tools in import and data processing, such as SFTP Explorer, Slate Open API or Slate Configurable API, which is new, source format, and suitcase, which again, some of these might sound very familiar to you. But for today, we're just going to focus on that Batch Acquire tool. So once I select that, you'll see the homepage of Batch Acquire. So first thing you'll see are these 5 individual rows of different functionalities of Batch Acquire, which we'll get into in just a moment. And then you're actually going to see this row right here that has my initials in front of it, the date, the time, and then a little bit more information about a import that was brought in this morning. We're going to get into that in just a moment, but for now, we're going to actually navigate up to the top to Batch Scan. So the first thing that I want to show you is Batch Scan. I'm only going to be able to get so far because I actually do not have a scanner. So a little limited in what I can show you here. But I do want to click on this first one just to start our knowledge sharing of Batch Acquire. So first things first, you'll see that once you click Batch Scan, it'll populate the batch name and the material. It'll allow you to adjust those. So first things first, the batch name, what it'll bring in is the date and the time of the specific batch, so documents that you're importing. You're welcome to leave it as is, or you're welcome to rename it. And a helpful advice that I received for Batch Acquire long ago was to put your initials in front of it. And if this is not your process at your institution, that's perfectly fine. You might have your own process, but by putting my initials in front of it, it's telling others who might be in Batch Acquire, because several individuals could be working in this tool at once, that this is an import that I brought in. So I'm going to just add my initials ahead of that. It's not going to affect the import at all. And it's just, again, a helpful way to designate this is something that I have brought in. You also see that material is do not pre-assign material type to batch. If I click on the dropdown, you'll see that I have the ability to actually assign that material type. This is something that you're welcome to do. Maybe you're bringing in all essays into a batch and you want to say all these material types will be essays. Perfectly fine. Maybe they're fee waivers and so on. A lot of the times what we find is that institutions are bringing in multiple documents that are of different material types and they don't want to pre-assign. And so I'm going to show you just in a little bit how you can assign once you bring in the import. But those are really the two steps if you're using a scanner and you want to do a batch scan. So I'm going to click scan and you're going to see I'm going to get a nice little error in a sense, but I don't have a scanner. It's not installed. It's not connected to my desktop. So I'm not going to be able to bring in a batch scan. So we're actually going to close out of this and jump down to upload digital documents. This is going to be how I bring in documents today, which is a perfectly fine way to do so. So I'm going to click on this third option and you'll see that our batch name populates again. And this is going to be same as you saw in batch scan, where I might want to put my initials in front of it. We see the date and we see the time. Next thing is the material type. Again, we're able to pre-assign it if we want to. For this particular scan, I know that I'm bringing in multiple documents that are not of the same material type. So I'm going to leave it be. So I'm going to click add files here. You'll see here that I actually have some files ready for us. So I'm going to select a couple that I want to bring in. And I'm going to click open. And you can either do so or drag documents over into this functionality here. So now that I have my documents ready, I've brought over what I want to import. I'm going to click the upload button. And it's going to think a little bit. This is a great time to go grab a cup of coffee or a refill if you're like me and you've already had a full cup of coffee this morning. Fantastic. There we go. So now you saw another row populate underneath my original import. So you'll see that it has my initials again, the date, as well as the time that I brought in this import. You'll then see sets says 4 and pages 8. Means that there are 4 individual documents and then a total of 8 pages. We'll see that one is a multi-page document. You're able to actually delete this batch if you maybe made a mistake and wanted to upload additional documents into this one batch, or you have the ability, again, if you have scanning capabilities, you can continue scanning. To be able to view those documents that are in this individual import, I actually just can click on this row and then I'll be able to view the 4 individual documents that I brought in. So the first one, 5 pages, my multi-page document, and then I have several 1-page documents. Now we're getting to the fun part. So I'm going to select actually my first document. Once we select that, we see that we're brought to a new page and we can actually view the document that we brought in. We have different functionality that we can also kind of play around with in just a moment. And then you'll see on the right side, this is where we would assign this either to a record or an application, which we'll get into in just a moment. But first things first, what about this functionality on the left? So you'll see here that I have the ability to rotate these individual documents. I can do so here. If I rotate this essay, you'll see that if you have a multi-page document, it doesn't actually rotate the other documents below it, which is nice. You might be scanning in documents and realize that one's upside down. You want to rotate it, and you can do so here. You also have the ability to delete this page if maybe the first page is something that you don't need, or you realized, again, you uploaded a document that you actually don't need in this. You're able to just delete the page. What I like about this function is that if you make a mistake, if you delete the wrong page, for example, you're able to restore it. And this will stay until you click the save button, which we'll see in just a moment. On the right side, you have the ability to rotate all of the pages. So you'll see here that all the pages were rotated when I clicked the right side rotate all. I'm going to bring them back. Actually, there we go. You also have the ability to redact. So maybe there's sensitive information in this document and I want to redact it. I can bring in the redact tool. You can see as this is highlighted, I'm able to redact information. If I didn't want to actually redact that specific portion of the document, I can undo redactions and click this. Just know that once you click save again, you're not able to do the undo function. So you want to make sure that you're careful about that. Finally, this auto acquire, if you watch assign to right here, if there's any ID or name, this will try to auto acquire and assign to a specific record. So I'm going to click on it. It's going to highlight red if you saw that. Again, really quickly, there's nothing here that identifies the student or the record that these documents belong to. So it's not assigned to anybody, which is perfectly fine. We're going to get to that in just a moment. Okay. We're just about ready to assign, but maybe this document, for example, this essay, is the only one that I want to assign to a particular record. And I see resume down here and transcript, and those all belong to other records. It actually has a document separator right here that you can click on. And now I'm able to assign this individual document to a student record. So now we're navigating up to this right side column that allows us to first identify the scope. So folio or application, folio is just a fancy name for record. So you're able to attach this to a specific record or their application. You're also able to select other data sets. So you have alumni volunteers, company and foundations, courses, and so on. But for the purpose of this training, we're just going to keep with folio and application. This assign to feature has a very similar functionality or the same functionality as looking up a record in Slate. So I'm just going to type in the test record that I have. If you're a Scrubs fan, you might recognize this name. You also could bring in the reference ID as well, but I know my test record's name. I'm just going to bring this in and select that student. You can see here, create record. If you can't find that student within or that record within your Slate instance, you're able to create a new record. If you know their email, first name, last name, and date of birth is most helpful, and to not create duplicates, you can bring that in and actually assign that to a new record. You also can clear here. So maybe this is the wrong student. You want to clear and look for another student. That's perfectly fine. You have that function here. All right. Next thing, you're able to say whether or not you want to assign this specific material to an application that they have, to their record folio, which again, their record, their specific record, or a school that they have listed. I know for this specific student, this essay is associated with their history application for 2023. So I'm going to select that. And then you have the ability to, again, assign that material type. So we'd mentioned before that a lot of times when you're bringing in documents that there are going to be several material types within that upload or that import. So for this, I'm able to say, okay, I know that this portion is an essay. I want to assign the material type of essay. And then you're welcome to bring in a memo that's going to be assigned to that material, which we'll look at in a little bit. If this all looks good, I'm able to hit save. And then that page of the document is gone. I'm able to move on. I can either assign this resume to my recently saved record that I just assigned another material to, or I'm able to select another record and continue on. So the process, again, pretty seamless. And I'm going to actually exit out of this, excuse me, so that I can go to that person record in just a moment. I'm going to let that sit for a little bit. We're going to go to Elliot Reed's record in just a moment. But I want to talk through, again, just a couple more functionalities of Batch Acquire before I do so. So right below Upload Digital Documents, you actually have Print Document Separator available too. So if you are doing a scan where you have those physical documents, you're able to add this to those batches to separate documents. So I just print off several of these, maybe in a different color, and add them to your import. You also have the ability to refresh batches. So maybe you've stepped away from your computer, you're working on importing a ton of documents and you're in, different imports here. If you come back, if several people are working within this too, it's always good practice, just refresh your batches to make sure that nothing's changed in between the time that you've walked away from your desk and come back. So just a nice practice to do. All right, let's go to a student record and see what happened now that we uploaded that material type. So we're going to this student. We can see if you've worked with rules before. We see this rule execution successfully queued, which is great. We know that we added that material to the 2023 history major, so I'm going to select that. And we can see here, if we scroll down, we've got checklist, materials. You can see there's our essay. So from Batch Acquire, we've got the essay that was brought in on today's date. We can click on it and you can actually view this and on the other screen so you can see the essay. But we've got it associated with the history application, the material type of essay, and then we can see the demo here. You are able, and I'm going to duplicate my screen really quick, but you are able to edit this and it'll bring you back into Batch Acquire. So you can see if I need to edit this document again, it'll bring me back in. I'm going to exit out of that. I'm going to click close here. But see, eventually this will be assigned to that checklist item of essay. So right now it's taking a little bit for those rules to update. So if you ever get a phone call from a student where they're panicked, they uploaded a document or imported a document through their application status page, which you can bring that, you can upload documents there. It takes a second for the rules to run, to be able to meet the requirement, which is perfectly fine, but you can see that the essay is actually in the materials right there. And that's how simple it is. That is our Batch Acquire tool for today. So I hope you enjoyed today's training and I hope that you come back and check out some more of our Slate demo series. But we appreciate your time and yeah, we'll see you all soon. Thank you so much.